So I'll just share a little bit about who I am and my journey to entrepreneurship because I think that's important. And then we'll dive right into some practical tips and things I've learned. I could give you enormous amount of tips, but I just focused on 5 today. And then we will open it up. We'll turn the recording off and open it up to a Q&A. So thank you for being here. As Winnie said, I'm Bevan Neiman. I self-identify as an empath, as a highly sensitive person. I am highly intuitive. I consider myself a light worker and a mystic. And so when I found out and I had my spiritual awakening about 8 years ago, I really wanted to meet other people like myself. And at that point, I had been basically a hermit. I had very few friends. And what I decided to do was open a meetup group. Meetup is a social online uh, platform, basically, where you can post workshops and different things that people are interested in, and people with common interests can get together. And so I kind of really took a deep breath and a big step of courage. And I opened up my home and had people that I didn't even know in my living room. And I taught a program called Sensitivity 101. And I was a volunteer at that point. I wasn't charging anything. I didn't even have an intention to start a business in this area. I just wanted to learn more about who I was, and I wanted to meet other people, and I wanted to uplift other people as well. And really, what you'll probably find if you look back in your own journey as an entrepreneur, that's exactly what's probably happened for you. There was a point where you began to get really passionate about whatever aspect of coaching that you're going into, whatever niche that you're interested in. And you've been doing this for a long time. You've been researching, you've been talking with friends about it. Maybe you've even done a few sessions, and you realize you sort of catch the bug, right? You sort of get passionate about this. And what happened for me is as I led these monthly workshops out of my home as a volunteer, people began to come up to me and they said, here I have this personal issue. Can we sit down and talk about it? And I began to do these informal coaching sessions afterwards. And I realized maybe this is my calling. Maybe this is what I'm supposed to do. And at the time I worked at a corporate job. I was working like 65 hours a week. I was a landscape designer, so it was a pretty cool job, but it was really labor intensive, very long hours, really tough work. And I started to think this is not what is fitting for me anymore. As a matter of fact, I was reaching a point of burnout. So sensitive people who overwork and try to keep up with like a super fast pace will have health issues. And it became so bad that at one point I basically couldn't even work for 6 months. It was a really interesting time. Sometimes they call that the dark night of the soul. And that was when I discovered I had 2 autoimmune disorders. And so went on this long journey over the last 8 years and worked with a lot of health coaches, as a matter of fact, who were really amazing, and some intuitive mediums, and various things. I've tried every single thing there is under the sun, and I'm pleased to say that I now have health and vitality. I understand how to create a rhythm for myself, and if it wasn't for people like you who are going through these programs, I wouldn't be able to contribute in the way that I do now. So I just want to thank you in advance for whatever future clients that you end up working with. And particularly this year, this last year, health is obviously going to be at the forefront of what we're discussing and on people's minds. And that's a really good thing. If we don't have our health, we don't have anything. So I'm just going to open up and share my screen and give you just a little bit more about me, and then talk about 5 tips to thrive and serve. A lot of entrepreneurship is out there in the mainstream media, and all that is like the hustle culture. You have to work so many hours and sacrifice your body and your sleep and all these things. And I reject that outright. I think that it's really important, gosh, especially if you're doing health coaching, to walk the talk, right? And to say, I need to nurture myself. I need to choose a business structure, a routine, a lifestyle that actually works for me and also helps others. We're not required to be a martyr or to sacrifice ourselves in order to do this. So give me just a moment here and I'll pull this up, right? And so this is what I'm talking about here, thriving while we serve. Let me make this the slideshow so we can see. Okay, that's a little bit better than I think for everyone. One second, just to get all the technology. Here we go. So yeah, I had gone on this spiritual awakening. I started the meetup community in 2015. I trained to become a coach, and it was wonderful. But I was really like, oh, I just barely know how to do this, right? So in the beginning, you're a novice at whatever it is that you're attempting. And I also started blogging. This was, I didn't realize it at the time. I was blogging really kind of from a place of therapy. It was therapeutic. It was like doing a journal, but putting it out there in the world, which was very vulnerable for me. And so I was really new at this point to everything. I didn't understand kind of how business worked. I didn't understand how marketing worked. I just started reaching out to people I knew, asking them, would you like to try these group programs, this one-to-one coaching? And then I began to write about my own journey, and people began to be attracted to my work. They began to follow and see. And, you know, I had a lot of blog posts that only maybe one or two people even read or saw. And then I had some, you know, like one or two that 50,000 people have now read. And this is how you kind of get started when you start to put your voice out there, whether you want to do a podcast, you would like to do YouTube videos, you want to blog, you want to do, maybe you want to do it through the creative sense. Maybe it's a Pinterest thing where you're talking, you know, showing, you know, ways to use organic, healthy food recipes, those kinds of things. Whatever it is that you're going to do, the platform you pick, you know, it needs to be really authentic. And you need to be talking about your own journey, because this is how people relate to you. And there used to be this whole thing of marketing where it was really slick and really polished and sort of manipulative. And really what I teach is about conscious business. How do we do this from a place of deep integrity? Yes, we still need to make a living. It's okay to receive abundance. As a matter of fact, it's really good for you in this thriving while you serve to receive that reciprocal exchange. But it doesn't have to be salesy, feeling like the used car salesman kind of thing. It can be very authentic. And that's the way I started. And then I officially launched my business, and I worked two jobs for about 2 years. What I did is I was working full time and just seeing clients in the evenings and the weekends. And then I negotiated with my boss to go part time and only work like 25 hours a week. And then I expanded my business some more. And at one point, it got really tense, right? Like walking this line between the two. And I realized, okay, it's time. It's time for me to tender my resignation and just jump right in. And what I tell people is it takes about 2 to 3 years to do that journey in order to go full time and be financially sustained, to have a big enough audience to do that. Some people can do it quicker, depends on how well they're networked. But generally, I like to give people the realistic version of what it looks like, because in my first year of business, I was like, wow, I'm just not doing well enough. You know, I'm not getting enough clients. I'm not making enough money. And then I realized, oh, I'm actually right on track. So I think it actually helps to relieve some of that tension. And then you can see that my business really expanded once I was able to go full time and really focus in with that. I did things like founded the 1 Million Empaths community, which I run online with another wonderful, sensitive person. And then, you know, as Wendy said, we hosted the summit and I became a faculty member, and now I'm doing my own courses and really expanding my work in the world. So it's like getting momentum. You start with one thing and then you build and you build and you build as you go on. And, you know, I'm not sure if those of you who are watching or listening are resonate as an empath, a mystic, a light worker, maybe a conscious person, you know, a spiritual seeker. But we often struggle with receiving. We are the ones, we're the helpers, we're the givers, we're the servers, you know, we're always doing the other thing. And it's hard for us sometimes to focus on our own needs. So this is one thing that is the thread between all of the programs I offer, which is you cannot give endlessly before you reach a depleted state. And that's what happened to me when I had to take those 6 months off and I had this severe health condition. was that I had just reached a point of burnout, and everything I do, I try to help people not get to that place. And I'm sure in your practices, you're going to probably do the same thing. You're going to have clients where you realize, wow, they're right at the edge of that. I need to do this intervention and really encourage them to sleep and to rest and take days off and maybe take a vacation. I had a client yesterday. I was like, when was the last time you had a vacation? She's like, oh, 4 years ago. I'm like, yes, it's time to just take, 3 or 4 days and just go off on your own and just have some time for yourself. So this is really important, and being self-focused is not selfish. It is necessary for sensitive people. So this is the first concept that I really want to talk about, is the journey that you've walked is the key to serving others. So anywhere that you have done a lot of personal healing work, you've overcome a health challenge, you've overcome a relationship challenge, a career challenge, whatever that is a perfect clue to the place where you start. It doesn't mean you have to continue to do that as your business, because it can change and it will change over time. But it's a great place to start, because essentially you've walked down this path, you've navigated all of the potholes and the trees that fell across the road, and you can like hold a hand back to someone who's just a couple steps behind you and say, hey, I know where you are, I know where you're going, let me help you make that a little bit easier. And that's a place where you can actually serve right away. You're taking someone on a similar journey to what you've walked, with a similar set of resources and support and tools and practices that you've put into place. So you don't have to be completely healed. You just have to be a little further down the path than someone else. And you just help them get past those shadowy areas and into the light. So this is the really, really important piece that I teach. And the first third of the Wisdom Circle program, the year that we spend together, we really dive deep into self-reflection. We look at all these things, and it doesn't have to be a challenge or a really terrible thing that happened to you. It can also be a place where you've triumphed, where you're really passionate, or you've built this whole skill set and you're like, yeah, that's what I want to do. Because not everyone's trying to overcome a challenge. Some people want to achieve an outcome and a goal, and that's the journey that you're going to take them on, and that's how you'll market what that journey looks like. For example, in my own business, the way I market the Wisdom Circle is that I help someone take the spark of an idea and turn it into a paid offer where they deliver it to actual paid clients. That's the first year. And in there, we do branding, and we talk about confidence and imposter syndrome, and we do all these other things. But fundamentally, that's the journey. So as you start to think about your crafting your own business, what is the journey that you want to take your clients on? And how do you communicate what that looks like? And the second concept is you will be rewarded by getting to practice what you teach, what you coach. Anytime you have a workshop, anytime you offer a group program, whatever the topic is, it will start to come up in your life. And you will get to look at it again, even if you've been looking at it before. It's really funny. I did this workshop last week on procrastination, avoidance, and perfectionism. And then I just sat there and I watched myself trying to finish this email to my email subscribers. And I was like, Bevan, you just told a group of people, let it be good enough. And I just had to go, okay, done editing, done editing, and so it's funny. I laugh about it now. But this is for you. Entrepreneurship, when you do it in a conscious way, is not just transactional. It's not like I do this and the clients get that and then we're done. What you're doing is transformational work, and you're transforming and they're transforming as well. And you can be fearful or irritated by this principle, or you can decide to be grateful for the learning and growth. So what I've started to do is just sort of laugh at myself and go, yep, that's what it is. I'm getting to practice what I teach. So the third concept is you must be financially nourished to be able to express your sacred gifts, right? There's a lot of stuff out there, about coaching, particularly also spiritual work, healing work. There's an old mentality where people say, well, no one should charge for that. You should just give it. This is your God-given gift. You should just give it. And that sounds really lovely, but my response is that back in, say, prehistoric times, those who were called into that spiritual healing work were supported by their tribe or community. So if I was a healer, and I, provided herbal medicine to someone in the tribe, maybe in exchange they would create a shirt or pants or outfit for me, or in exchange for doing a spiritual ceremony, I would get a portion of whatever the hunt was and the gathering was at the time. They would give me food. So the person who was in the community, or the people in the community who were doing the kind of work we're doing, were automatically, it was assumed that they would be uplifted and supported by the community around them. But now we live in a more modern world, and so the way that we're uplifted and supported is by financial reciprocal exchange. And one of the biggest things that most new entrepreneurs, and even as you get more experience, you still have to deal with those old sort of root chakra fears and scarcity mentality. Any kind of messages that you received about money from when you were a child in your family of origin or your culture, all of that will come up, right? And you'll have to work through that. And I laugh about this because I say that nothing will help you get over this quicker than when you write your letter of resignation to your day job, and then you realize your business has to 100% support you. And then you say, oh, it's okay for me to ask someone to pay me. I need to buy food this month. I need to pay rent this month. So yeah, it's a process, and everyone goes through this. But please understand that it's okay for you to be financially nourished. And I loved it. One of the other beautiful speakers I got a chance to work with on the Evolved Empath Summit, in addition to Jeanette and Wendy, was Anita Morgiani. And she said, what if empathic, sensitive people were more wealthy? She said, what do you think they would do, Bevan? And I said, well, if it was me and my business was wildly abundant, I would, obviously provide a nurturing home for myself, help my family. And I said, I would probably donate to a lot of different causes that I really care about. And she said, exactly. So the way that money is used is what's important here, not so much, whether we have it or don't have it. And also not tying your own personal value and worth to your work, which is really challenging sometimes because we do put a lot of ourselves into it. But this is how people can reciprocate. If you like to have a YouTube channel and you get 10,000 subscribers, then you can offer paid ads on there, and it's a way for you to receive abundance. I have an online subscription community, and so people do that. You can have a book, a course, a music album, do one-to-one coaching, group coaching, yoga classes, whatever that is. It's okay to ask people to invest in that. And usually, and Wendy can probably talk about this when we come into the Q&A, when people do invest at least something, they tend to be a little bit more committed as well. So that's going to be a really good concept. Number 4 is that you will be more publicly visible than you ever imagined or probably comfortable with. So when I first started, I had a website, and my name and my picture was nowhere to be seen. I made my business Perceptive Souls because I didn't want my name associated with it. And part of that was because I was still working kind of a mainstream day job. But it really does require you to keep stepping out of your comfort zone, right? And one of my mentorship clients said, well, if I put myself out there, what will people expect of me? And if you are a sensitive person and you get overwhelmed by energy, by negative comments, by those kinds of things, which we do, it's an important consideration. So there will be trolls or haters. I've had to block people on social media. If people ask a question you don't know the answer to, you can say, I'm not sure about that, but give me your email address and I'll look it up and I'll send you a resource. You are not expected to be the guru ever in your career. You're just giving the best information that you possibly know. And I'm sure in the health field, wow, it has to be just a continuing process of exploration and new research and other things coming out. So that's exciting. And you can say, wow, that's, something I've never fielded before. but this is the only way that people are going to know you even have a business. I love the law of attraction, but it's just like, if you build it, they will come. Except there's a lot of voices out there in the collective. And in order for yours to be heard, you really have to start putting something out there consistently. It doesn't have to be fancy. As a matter of fact, in the beginning, my videos were kind of grainy. I had a lot of ums, a lot of silence, like I was a little nervous. My blog posts probably weren't completely grammatically correct, but it's getting yourself out there and getting used to being a voice and being a presence. And what I recommend is if you can do it every week, that's great. Or if you can do it every 2 weeks, but just trying to get a constant schedule of getting yourself out into the world. And the farther you get into entrepreneurship, the more important you'll see that is. And then, this is the last concept I want to say. Wherever you are, you're doing great. Because, we always think, oh, I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing it fast enough. I'm not successful enough. And you look out in the world and you see all these other people and their websites look beautiful and their marketing looks really fancy. And, they're like, oh, I'm serving thousands of clients or whatever that looks like. But, most people, entrepreneurship is still fairly small. It's growing, but most people will never take this path because it's too scary or risky. I think a lot more people, because of the COVID pandemic and the instability with a lot of what we had thought were tried and true kind of organizations, they realized, oh, maybe there's something there for me with that. So, I think it's really important to avoid the shiny objects on the internet, to try not to compare yourself too much to others, to realize where you are in the process and know if someone's 3 or 4 or 5 years ahead of you, then of course they're going to, look like they're having more success. They probably are. This is a masterpiece. Building your business happens over time. It's not just, here, snap, 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 six figures in 30 days. There's stuff out on the internet that you can see with that. But, give yourself props and pat yourself on the back for the small successes. And what I teach about in this, the Wisdom Circle for Novice Entrepreneurs, which is a year-long mentorship, is that running a successful spiritual business requires practical skills and spiritual development. So I call it the earthly realm and the spiritual realm. We need to have both. We need to have the nuts and bolts, and then we also need to work on our personal, spiritual, and professional growth, our leadership ability, our confidence, our ability to feel like we know what we're talking about and that we have some momentum. We need both of those things. And we need to know practically, how do we price things? How do we brand ourselves? How do we do market research? I'm a huge proponent of market research because it's like you could create this beautiful idea. You could craft this idea and you could put it out there and no one shows up. And it's devastating to you as a new entrepreneur. I've done it several times. I did a retreat, a day-long retreat, and it was much sooner than I probably should have. And I didn't do any market research. And not a single person, I did all this work and marketing and everything else, and not a single person showed up. But those things also taught me something really important, which was to know what to start with first, and then what to start with next, and then how to build upon it. It's like creating a really solid foundation before you start stacking a bunch of things. So in the beginning, what I tell my clients is just do one offer. Whether you're going to do one-to-one coaching and it's a 4-session package, just do that. Just promote that. Just focus on that. Do that to the best of your ability. Get, 5 to 10 people to try that out. Make some tweaks, pivot and adapt, see what works, see what doesn't. Ask them for their feedback. Ask them if they'll give you a testimonial so you have, some proof that you've worked with clients. And just start with one thing, because otherwise it gets too overwhelming, especially if you're still working for someone else during the time that you're building your business. And this is what I'm talking about, the earthly realm and the spiritual realm. And most people are more familiar and comfortable with one than the other. You might like the earthy realm. You're like, yeah, I know what to do. I know how to make these things. I've been looking at pricing, and that feels really good for you, or maybe you worked a previous job in finance or whatever that is. And you're like, yeah, I kind of have that part. But this other part, trusting my intuitive knowing or finding resources to support my path or whatever that is, I'm not sure how to do that, or vice versa. So I have students who are stronger in one than the other. And over time, you're building your skills in both so that you're in that balanced place. And so the Wisdom Circle begins on January 24th, if anyone is interested in this. And, why I created this was that it's not just me getting up and talking. Everyone in the group has mastery in different areas of their life. And they have ideas and insights. And so when we gather together for our live calls, we have group calls, and then I do one-to-one coaching with each participant. The group calls are just so rich, probably just like your group calls here with Wendy and Jeanette, where people are sharing things and then it bounces an idea past, and then you expand that and it just grows and grows, and everyone gets what they need. If someone asks a specific question during the group, another person's like, yeah, I didn't even realize I needed to know that. So that's kind of how that works. And then, basically this is what it includes. It's really for people who are in their first 1 to 2 years of business. And my goal is to help you set strong foundations. So it includes individual coaching, group coaching. I also do a weekly video teaching. They're short, like 10 minutes, that you can watch at your own pace on different topics. We also have co-working, which is on Thursdays. And it's just an hour where everybody gets on a Zoom call. We say hi, everybody turns their video and their audio off. We all work on our own individual projects for an hour. Then we come back together and say, what did we learn? What did we gain from that? And it's a nice self-accountability piece. And then there's an online forum where everything is hosted. You can easily access everything and chat with each other. And right now, my current group is starting the beta testing process where they're crafting their one offer, and they're going to get a group of people to pilot that with them. And so they're going to do some of that with each other and talk about their results on there. And so I'm asking everyone to schedule a discovery call by Wednesday, January 20th, if you're interested. If not, that's fine too. I'm just so happy to talk about conscious business and get this out there and make sure that, we're starting to shift the business mentality that we've seen for so many years in our world into something that is more respectful, caring, inclusive, equitable. This is what we want to do. But you can go to perceptivesouls.com/wisdom circle if that's something you're interested in.